Hi everyone, my name is Mark, and today we're diving into a chilling case that has gripped the hearts of many. On July 14, 2024, the remains of Lily Bennett were discovered, 2 years after her mysterious disappearance on June 2, 2022. The small town of Pine Hollow, known for its close-knit community and picturesque landscapes, became the epicenter of a nationwide investigation when Lily vanished without a trace. Lily Bennett's case began as a tragic disappearance, but as details emerged, it became clear that her story was much darker than anyone could have imagined. What initially appeared to be a case of a missing woman soon spiraled into a web of deceit, betrayal, and murder. Lily Bennett was born on March 9, 1994, to her parents Tom and Margaret Bennett in Pine Hollow, a quaint town nestled in the mountains. Growing up, Lily was known for her bright smile, her kindness, and her love for the outdoors. She was an only child, doted on by her parents, and was well loved by everyone who knew her. After graduating from Pine Hollow High School, Lily went on to study environmental science at a nearby university, where she met her future husband, Jacob Davis. Jacob was everything Lily had ever dreamed of in a partner: handsome, ambitious, and charming. The two quickly fell in love and, after graduating, returned to Pine Hollow, where they settled into what seemed to be the perfect life. They bought a cozy house near the edge of the forest, and Lily took a job with the local environmental conservation group, while Jacob started his own construction business. They were the picture-perfect couple in the eyes of the community, but as with many seemingly perfect lives, not everything was as it appeared on the surface. On the morning of June 2, 2022, Jacob Davis reported his wife missing. He told the police that he had left early for work and returned home around 6 p.m. to find the house empty. Lily's car was still in the driveway, and her purse and phone were on the kitchen counter, but there was no sign of her. Jacob claimed that Lily had mentioned going for a hike in the nearby woods that morning, something she did often but she never returned. The initial search for Lily was extensive. Dozens of volunteers from the town, along with search and rescue teams, scoured the surrounding woods and mountains for any sign of her. But they found nothing. No footprints, no discarded belongings, nothing to suggest where Lily might have gone. As days turned into weeks, hope began to fade. The investigation soon shifted focus, with the police starting to look more closely at those closest to Lily. It wasn't long before their attention turned to Jacob. Jacob's behavior during the search and investigation began to raise eyebrows. Initially, he was cooperative, joining search parties and making tearful pleas on television for Lily's safe return. But as time went on, Jacob seemed to grow more distant and detached. Neighbors noticed that he stopped participating in the searches and spent more time away from home. Rumors began to swirl that all was not well in the Davis household. The police began to dig deeper into Lily and Jacob's relationship. Interviews with friends and family revealed that their marriage was far from perfect. Despite their outward appearance as the ideal couple, those close to them described a relationship that had become strained over the years. There were whispers of arguments, infidelity, and control. The once happy marriage had deteriorated, with Lily reportedly confiding in a close friend that she was considering leaving Jacob. The turning point in the investigation came when the police obtained a warrant to search the Davis home. What they found would change the course of the case. During the search, investigators discovered a hidden compartment in the basement of the house, behind a false wall. Inside, they found a collection of personal items belonging to Lily: her favorite hiking boots, a worn-out journal, and a small box containing letters and photographs. But the most chilling discovery was a stained rug, which forensic tests later confirmed to be covered in blood. The blood was a match to Lily. This discovery led to Jacob's arrest on suspicion of murder. The community was in shock. How could the charming and successful Jacob Davis be capable of such a horrific act? But as the investigation continued, more and more evidence pointed to his involvement. The prosecution's case against Jacob was strong. They argued that Jacob, facing financial difficulties with his construction business and a crumbling marriage, had grown increasingly desperate. They painted a picture of a man who felt trapped by his circumstances and saw no way out. But to eliminate the one person he believed was holding him back, his wife, Lily, the prosecution presented evidence that Jacob had been having an affair with a woman from a neighboring town, and that Lily had recently found out. They argued that this discovery led to a confrontation on the morning of June 2nd, during which Jacob killed Lily in a fit of rage. But despite the compelling evidence, there were still unanswered questions. What happened to Lily's body? Why was there no trace of her in the woods where she supposedly went hiking? And why did Jacob, a man who had never shown any signs of violence, suddenly snap? The defense, led by a skilled attorney, argued that there was no direct evidence linking Jacob to Lily's disappearance. They suggested that someone else could have been responsible, perhaps an unknown third party who had been stalking Lily, or even an accident that Jacob panicked about and tried to cover up. The defense also questioned the reliability of the forensic evidence, arguing that the blood on the rug could have been planted to frame Jacob. The trial dragged on for weeks, with the jury seemingly deadlocked. But just as it seemed like the case might end in a hung jury, a new piece of evidence came to light, one that would blow the case wide open. The shocking revelation came from an unexpected source, a hiker who had been exploring a remote section of the forest, far from the original search area. The hiker, a local named Greg Miller, stumbled upon what appeared to be a shallow grave, partially concealed by underbrush and rocks. Upon closer inspection, he realized it was the remains of a human body. The police were immediately notified, and the area was cordoned off as investigators descended on the site. The discovery of Lily Bennett's remains sent shockwaves through Pine Hollow. The body was found miles away from where Lily was believed to have gone hiking, in a location that was nearly inaccessible without specialized knowledge of the area. It was clear that someone had gone to great lengths to ensure that the body would never be found. Forensic analysis confirmed that the remains belonged to Lily, and the cause of death was determined to be blunt force trauma to the head. The discovery of Lily's body brought a renewed intensity to the trial. The prosecution now had the physical evidence they needed to solidify their case against Jacob. They argued that Jacob had killed Lily in their home, transported her body to the remote location, and buried her in a shallow grave. The blood-stained rug found in the basement was presented as crucial evidence, tying Jacob to the crime scene. Additionally, soil samples taken from Jacob's truck matched the type of soil found at the burial site, further implicating him in the disposal of Lily's body. But as the trial progressed, the defense continued to poke holes in the prosecution's narrative. They argued that while the evidence might suggest Jacob's involvement, it was all circumstantial. There was no direct evidence proving that Jacob was the one who killed Lily or buried her body. The defense suggested that someone else could have committed the murder and framed Jacob, pointing out that the blood-stained rug and soil evidence could have been manipulated. The trial took an even darker turn when a new witness was called to the stand, a former employee of Jacob's construction company, Ethan Marshall. Ethan had worked closely with Jacob for years and claimed to have seen a different side of him. According to Ethan, Jacob had been under immense pressure both financially and personally in the months leading up to Lily's disappearance. Ethan testified that Jacob had confided in him about his failing marriage and his suspicions that Lily was having an affair. But it was what Ethan revealed next that truly shocked the courtroom. He claimed that Jacob had approached him a few weeks before Lily's disappearance with a disturbing request. Jacob allegedly asked Ethan if he knew anyone who could take care of a problem for him, insinuating that he wanted someone to make Lily disappear. Ethan, shocked by the request, said he refused and distanced himself from Jacob in the following weeks. However, he never reported the conversation to the authorities, fearing for his safety and his job. This testimony painted a damning picture of Jacob as a man who was desperate and willing to go to extreme lengths to solve his problems. The prosecution seized on Ethan's testimony, using it to argue that Jacob had premeditated the murder of his wife. They suggested that when Jacob couldn't find someone to do his dirty work, he decided to take matters into his own hands. Despite the mounting evidence, Jacob maintained his innocence. He took the stand in his own defense, delivering an emotional testimony. Jacob admitted that his marriage was troubled and that he had been unfaithful, but he vehemently denied any involvement in Lily's death. He claimed that the conversation with Ethan had been a moment of frustration, not a serious request. Jacob insisted that he loved Lily and would never harm her. As the trial neared its conclusion, the jury was left to grapple with a complex and emotionally charged case. On one hand, there was a significant amount of circumstantial evidence pointing to Jacob's guilt. The blood-stained rug, the soil samples, the testimony of Ethan Marshall, and the discovery of Lily's body in a remote location. On the other hand, there was no direct evidence tying Jacob to the actual act of killing his wife. The defense hammered home the idea that there was reasonable doubt in the case. They argued that the prosecution had not proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that Jacob was guilty. The possibility that someone else could have been involved or that Jacob was being framed was enough to sway at least some members of the jury. As the jury deliberated, tensions ran high in Pine Hollow. The town, once united in their support for Jacob, was now divided. Some believed he was guilty, a man who had coldly murdered his wife and tried to cover it up. Others saw him as a victim of circumstance, a man who was being unfairly targeted because of his troubled marriage and financial woes. The jury's decision, when it finally came, was one of the most anticipated moments in the town's history. After days of deliberation, they returned to the courtroom with their verdict. Jacob Davis was found not guilty of first-degree murder. The jury was unable to convict him beyond a reasonable doubt, largely due to the lack of direct evidence and the defense's successful argument for reasonable doubt. The verdict stunned the courtroom in the town of Pine Hollow. While some were relieved, believing that justice had been served, others were outraged, convinced that a guilty man had been set free. For many, the mystery of what truly happened to Lily Bennett remained unsolved, with lingering doubts and unanswered questions. But the story didn't end there. In the weeks following the trial, new developments came to light that would once again shake the town of Pine Hollow to its core. A local journalist, Megan Harper, who had been covering the trial extensively, received an anonymous tip that would lead her down a path she never expected. The tip claimed that there was more to Lily's story, much more than had been revealed in court. The source suggested that Lily had been involved in something dangerous, and that her disappearance might be connected to a secret that had been buried for years. Intrigued and determined to uncover the truth, Megan began her own investigation, digging into Lily's past and the events leading up to her disappearance. What she discovered would open up a whole new chapter in the case, one that would reveal the true nature of the betrayal that led to Lily Bennett's death. Megan Harper's investigation into Lily Bennett's past began with a deep dive into her personal and professional life. As a journalist, Megan was known for her tenacity and her ability to uncover hidden truths, and she was determined to get to the bottom of the mystery surrounding Lily's death. She started by interviewing people who had been close to Lily, including her colleagues at the environmental conservation group where she had worked, her friends, and even her distant relatives. One of the first things Megan uncovered was a series of emails between Lily and a mysterious figure known only by the initials RS. The emails were encrypted and difficult to trace, but with the help of a tech-savvy friend, Megan managed to decrypt them. What she found was shocking. The emails revealed that Lily had been involved in a secret investigation of her own, one that she had never mentioned to anyone, not even her closest friends. Lily's investigation appeared to center around a construction project that Jacob's company had been contracted to build, a luxury resort on the outskirts of Pine Hollow. The project had been controversial from the start, with local environmental groups, including the one Lily worked for, opposing it due to its potential impact on the surrounding wilderness. But the emails hinted at something far more sinister. Lily had uncovered evidence suggesting that the resort project was a front for illegal activities, possibly involving money laundering and other criminal enterprises. The emails with RS indicated that Lily had been working with this mysterious contact to gather information and expose those behind the scheme. Megan's investigation revealed that Lily had been in over her head, dealing with dangerous people who would stop at nothing to protect their interests. As Megan delved deeper, she discovered that RS was actually a former employee of Jacob's company, a man named Richard Sawyer. Sawyer had been fired under mysterious circumstances just a few months before Lily's disappearance. He had a criminal record and was known to have ties to some unsavory characters in the region. Megan tracked down Sawyer, who was living in a small, rundown cabin in a remote part of the state. In a tense interview, Sawyer revealed that he and Lily had been working together to expose the criminal activities linked to the resort project. He claimed that they had uncovered evidence of a major money laundering operation that involved not only local businessmen but also corrupt officials. According to Sawyer, Lily had become a target after she refused to back down, despite receiving multiple threats. Sawyer also dropped a bombshell. He believed that Jacob was aware of Lily's investigation and had been trying to stop her from going any further. Sawyer suggested that Jacob might have been involved in the illegal activities himself, or at the very least, complicit in covering them up. This revelation added a new layer of complexity to the case, raising the possibility that Lily's murder was not just a crime of passion, but part of a larger conspiracy. Megan's next step was to confront Jacob with this new information. She arranged to meet him at a local cafe where she laid out what she had discovered. Jacob was visibly shaken by the allegations. He denied any involvement in the illegal activities or in Lily's investigation, insisting that he had no idea what she had been up to. However, his reaction only made Megan more suspicious. After the meeting, Megan decided to follow the money. She began looking into the financial records of Jacob's company and the resort project. What she found was a tangled web of transactions, with large sums of money moving through various shell companies and offshore accounts. The financial trail led her to a powerful real estate developer named Victor Lang, who had been a key player in the resort project. Lang was a well-known figure in the state, with connections in both business and politics. He was also known for his ruthless tactics and his willingness to do whatever it took to get what he wanted. Megan quickly realized that she was dealing with someone who was not to be taken lightly, but she was determined to keep digging, even as the danger to her own life increased. As Megan continued to investigate, she started receiving anonymous threats, warning her to back off. Despite the escalating threats, Megan refused to give up. She knew she was close to uncovering the truth, and she wasn't about to let fear stop her. Meanwhile, the town of Pine Hollow was still reeling from the fallout of Jacob's trial. The discovery of Lily's secret investigation added a new dimension to the case, and people began to question everything they thought they knew about the situation. Some started to wonder if Jacob had been telling the truth all along, if he really had been innocent and was simply a pawn in a much larger game. As Megan's investigation neared its climax, she uncovered one final damning piece of evidence. It was a video recording, taken by Lily herself, just days before her disappearance. The video showed Lily sitting at her desk, speaking directly to the camera. She looked tired and stressed, but there was a determination in her eyes. In the video, Lily explained that she had uncovered a conspiracy involving some of the most powerful people in the region. She said that she had evidence that could bring them down, but she was afraid for her life. Lily made it clear that she believed Jacob was involved, though she wasn't sure to what extent. She ended the video with a chilling statement: "If anything happens to me, it won't be an accident. These people will stop at nothing to protect themselves." The video was a game changer. Megan knew that she had to get this evidence into the right hands, but she also knew that doing so would put her in even greater danger. She decided to go public with the story, using her platform as a journalist to expose the conspiracy and the truth behind Lily's death. The release of the video caused an immediate uproar. The public outcry was intense, and the authorities were forced to reopen the investigation. Jacob Davis, who had thought he was in the clear, suddenly found himself back under scrutiny. Victor Lang and other powerful figures connected to the resort project were also implicated, and the FBI became involved, launching a full-scale investigation into the criminal activities that Lily had uncovered. But before the investigation could reach its conclusion, tragedy struck. Megan Harper was found dead in her apartment, the victim of what the police initially ruled as a suicide. However, those who knew Megan, including her close friends and colleagues, refused to believe that she had taken her own life. They were convinced that she had been silenced, just as Lily had been. The aftermath of Megan Harper's death ignited a firestorm of media coverage and public outrage. The case, which had already captured the nation's attention, now became a symbol of the dangers faced by those who dare to challenge powerful figures. The FBI, now fully involved, ramped up their investigation, determined to bring those responsible to justice. However, as the investigation deepened, it became clear that this was not just about one woman's murder, but about a network of corruption that reached far beyond Pine Hollow. Victor Lang, the real estate developer at the center of the resort project, quickly became the primary focus of the investigation. His business dealings were scrutinized, and it wasn't long before the authorities uncovered a vast web of illegal activities, including money laundering, fraud, and even ties to organized crime. Lang's empire began to crumble as evidence mounted against him, and his once loyal associates started to turn on him, offering information in exchange for leniency. But while the investigation into Lang's activities was making progress, the question of who had killed Lily Bennett and Megan Harper remained unanswered. The FBI was now working under the assumption that the two murders were connected, but they had yet to identify the person or persons responsible. The investigators believed that both women had gotten too close to the truth and that someone within Lang's circle had silenced them to protect the larger conspiracy. As the investigation continued, new evidence came to light that provided a clearer picture of the events leading up to Lily's disappearance. It was revealed that on the day Lily went missing, she had scheduled a meeting with an informant, someone who had inside knowledge of the resort project and its illegal operations. This informant, whose identity was still unknown, had promised to provide Lily with critical information that could expose the entire operation. However, Lily never made it to that meeting. The FBI believed that someone within Lang's organization had discovered her plans and intercepted her before she could obtain the information. Jacob Davis, who had been acquitted of Lily's murder, found himself once again under intense scrutiny. Although there was no direct evidence linking him to the conspiracy, his close association with the resort project made him a person of interest. The FBI questioned him extensively, trying to determine how much he knew about Lily's investigation and whether he had played any role in her death. Jacob maintained his innocence, insisting that he had no knowledge of Lily's secret investigation and that he was not involved in any illegal activities. However, the pressure on him continued to mount, and his once flourishing construction business began to suffer as clients and partners distanced themselves from the scandal. The turning point in the investigation came when the FBI received an anonymous tip from someone claiming to have information about the murders. The tipster, who identified themselves only as Echo, provided details that had not been made public, including the location where Lily's body had been buried and the identity of the informant she had been scheduled to meet. According to Echo, the informant was a man named Marcus Reed, a former employee of Victor Lang who had recently gone into hiding. The FBI launched a manhunt for Reed, believing that he held the key to unraveling the entire conspiracy. After weeks of searching, they finally tracked him down to a remote cabin in the mountains, where he had been living off the grid. Reed, a gaunt and paranoid figure, initially refused to cooperate, fearing for his life. However, after being assured of protection, he agreed to tell the FBI what he knew. Reed's testimony was explosive. He confirmed that Lily had been investigating the illegal activities connected to the resort project and that she had uncovered damning evidence against Victor Lang and his associates. Reed revealed that Lang's organization was involved in a wide range of criminal activities, including drug trafficking and human smuggling, using the resort project as a front. Reed also confirmed that Lily had been lured into a trap on the day of her disappearance. She had been told to meet him at a secluded location, but when she arrived, she was ambushed by two men who worked for Lang. According to Reed, these men had orders to take care of the problem, and after a brief struggle, they killed Lily and buried her body in the remote location where it was later found. The most shocking revelation came when Reed identified the two men who had killed Lily. One of them was a man named Tony Delgado, a known enforcer for Lang's organization. The other man, however, was someone the FBI hadn't expected, Jacob Davis's business partner, Aaron Miller. Miller had been involved in the resort project from the beginning, and Reed claimed that he had been working closely with Lang to ensure its success. This revelation cast Jacob's role in the conspiracy in a new light. While there was still no direct evidence linking him to the murders, it became clear that his business partner had been deeply involved in the illegal activities. The FBI began to investigate whether Jacob had knowingly turned a blind eye to what was happening, or whether he had been an unwitting participant in the conspiracy. As the investigation into Aaron Miller intensified, the FBI uncovered a series of incriminating communications between him and Victor Lang. These communications suggested that Miller had been instrumental in orchestrating the cover-up of Lily's murder, working behind the scenes to ensure that the truth would never come out. Miller was arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder, among other crimes. With Miller in custody, the FBI turned their attention back to Jacob Davis. Despite the mounting evidence against his business partner, Jacob continued to deny any involvement in the conspiracy. However, the public's perception of him had shifted once again, with many in Pine Hollow now convinced that he had been complicit in the crimes, if not directly involved. The trial of Aaron Miller was a major event, drawing national attention. The prosecution presented a compelling case, using Reed's testimony and the incriminating communications to paint a picture of a cold-blooded conspiracy to silence Lillie Bennett. Miller's defense, however, argued that he had been coerced by Victor Lang, and that he had acted out of fear for his own life. In the end, the jury found Aaron Miller guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The conviction was a significant victory for the FBI, but it did little to ease the pain of those who had lost loved ones in the course of the conspiracy. As for Jacob Davis, the question of his involvement remained unresolved. The FBI was unable to find sufficient evidence to charge him with any crimes, but his reputation was irreparably damaged. He eventually left Pine Hollow, unable to escape the shadow of the scandal. The investigation into Victor Lang and his criminal empire continued, with more arrests and charges following in the months after Miller's conviction. Lang himself eventually fled the country, becoming a fugitive and one of the most wanted men in America. The resort project was shut down and the land was returned to the state, ending the years-long battle over its development. In the end, the tragic story of Lillie Bennett and Megan Harper served as a stark reminder of the dangers that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most idyllic communities. Their courage in standing up against corruption and seeking the truth, despite the risks, left a lasting impact on Pine Hollow and beyond. The town would never forget the sacrifices they made in pursuit of justice, and their story would continue to inspire those who fight against injustice, no matter the cost. In the wake of Aaron Miller's conviction and Victor Lang's flight from justice, the small town of Pine Hollow began the slow process of healing. The scandal had shaken the community to its core, and the repercussions were felt far and wide. The once thriving resort project, that had promised to bring economic prosperity to the area, was now a barren, abandoned site, a grim reminder of the corruption and greed that had infiltrated the town. But while the town sought to move on, the legacies of Lillie Bennett and Megan Harper could not be forgotten. Their bravery in the face of overwhelming odds had brought down a powerful criminal network, but it had also cost them their lives. In recognition of their sacrifice, a memorial was erected in Pine Hollow, near the entrance to the forest where Lillie loved to hike. The plaque bore their names and the simple inscription, "In pursuit of truth and justice." Jacob Davis, now a shadow of the man he once was, left Pine Hollow shortly after Aaron Miller's trial concluded. The weight of the scandal, coupled with the loss of his wife and the destruction of his business, was too much for him to bear. He settled in a distant city, far from the prying eyes of the media and the whispers of the townspeople. Despite his acquittal, the cloud of suspicion never fully lifted, and he lived out his days in relative obscurity, forever marked by the events that had transpired.